Slavery and human trafficking are an international phenomenon, as Monique just mentioned, in our part of the world as well. In the Middle East, they fall into this gray area of people who have been trafficked from desperately poor situations around the world into situations they had no idea that they would be entering, where their passports are removed from them, the conditions, the contracts they were promised are not honored, and it can continue on for years and years of their lives and affect their families and larger communities. We have refugee populations. There's now a population of the size of London that has been displaced from their homes in Syria and Iraq since the beginning of the war. And young girls and women trying to care for their families, having lost the men in their families, are having no idea where they are, who are unaccompanied, leaving the country into host countries like Jordan and Turkey and others.
Very vulnerable.
Extremely vulnerable, preyed upon. Yes. And in all of our countries, I know here in Jordan, we're trying very hard to begin to provide some protections, because we've seen the abuses and the advantage that's been taken of these young girls and women and children, who are also now falling into the cracks and becoming child labor in situations, and the only ones bringing home any money to their families in these refugee communities.
What has it done to a country like Jordan, with I think a population of 6 million people and 2 million refugee migrants coming into that country? What's it done to Jordan?
Well, all of our basic services have been stretched, the health, education, infrastructure, energy, water, which we're one of the most water-poor countries in the world, and our borders are also considered an area that is very insecure right now. If those young people coming across our borders and the borders of other countries in the region in such large numbers don't have some sense of possibility in their lives going forward, if we can't provide that, then we are going to be feeding
radicalization, presumably.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, and how scared are people in Jordan at the moment about the so-called IS right on your borders?
I think we're deeply concerned about not only our borders, but what's happening in our larger region. And I think there are many of us who are very concerned that there's been a disproportionate emphasis on military so-called solutions or attempted solutions for this problem, resources and attention going into military activities and not into human development and rights-based comprehensive reforms in the region that really are the only way to tackle the root causes of what we're seeing in terms of that degree of radicalism and extremism.
These have been very patriarchal societies traditionally. How open have people been to seeing things differently?
If you look at developing world, especially the Middle East, you can see that the condition of women in our countries, and even though legislation may be according them rights, it's not enforced adequately, and as a result we are not fulfilling our potential. If you can demonstrate that to men in grassroots communities and at all levels of decision-making, you can gradually begin to have an impact. They see that there's an economic benefit to be had, and that is going to benefit all members of the family and all members of the society. And without women playing that active role, that country is going to be held back.
Women are an economic accelerator. As soon as they work, they spend for the family, they spend their money, they spend everything for their children, for their education, for their feeding, etc.
And there's the security and peace component, because all of that leads to more stable and more peaceful communities and societies. Yeah. You can't have that without that economic benefit and role being played by the women.
Monique, Queen Noor, thank you both very much indeed.